There's a very specific headspace I'm in when I put on high-energy electronic rock.
Oh, absolutely. I think we all have that zone.
Right, like I'm usually trying to outrun a deadline, or maybe I'm on a treadmill at 6 in the morning, just, you know, trying to forget that I have legs.
That is definitely the standard use case. We
Yeah.
tend to keep our gym playlists and our psychology textbooks in very different corners of the room.
Exactly. I am definitely not looking for a lecture on neurobiology when the bass drops. But today, we're completely messing with that boundary
We really are.
because we're asking a weirdly specific question for this deep dive. Can a high-octane pop track actually teach us how to rewire our nervous systems?
Which sounds crazy, but
It does. Well, we're looking at this track called The Sweetest Pause by the artist Ti-Fi, and it's doing exactly that.
it is such a fascinating piece of media because it squarely hits that high-energy alt-pop, electronic rock genre. It's got the driving beat, the heavy synths.
But if you dig into the liner notes, and specifically the breakdown from the writer's room, you realize this isn't a breakup anthem.
No, it's not a party track either.
No, the materials literally describe it as a map of a psychological process.
Which is a bold claim for a pop song, you have to
Yeah.
admit. But having reviewed the lyrics and the commentary, it really holds up.
It totally does.
It's essentially an exploration of that split-second war between instinct, our animal brain, and intentionality.
So that's our mission today. We're going to analyze the breakdown of this track to see how the lyrics serve as this map. And honestly, the idea of dancing while learning to manage anxiety.
It's efficient.
It is the absolute multitasking dream.
I think framing it as a map is super useful here because what we're really looking at is the anatomy of a response. We're bridging the gap between the chaotic world of triggers, which you and I and everyone deals with, and the grounded world of recovery.
Let's get right into the music then. Or, well, the lyrics. Because the song opens with a scene that is just aggressively mundane. I think literally everyone has lived this moment. The lyric is, the coffee cup shattered all over the floor.
A classic low-stakes disaster.
Right. And it's immediately followed by, usually that's when I'd slam the door. Now, be honest, you're an expert in this field. But have you ever been the person slamming a door over a spilled drink?
Oh, absolutely. That is a universal human experience. It's what we clinically call the startle response.
Okay, let's unpack that. Because usually when we talk about trauma or mental health triggers in these deep dives, we're thinking of massive life events.
The big stuff, right?
Yeah, like car crashes, huge arguments, life-altering news. But here, Ti-Fi is starting with a kitchen accident. Why start so small?
Because that is where the conditioning actually lives. In the commentary from the writer's room, Ti-Fi explains that for a lot of people, the small things reveal the deepest wiring.
Interesting.
The startle response isn't just about the loud noise of the ceramic breaking on the tile. It's about the internal cascade. It is the exact moment the brain perceives a sudden loss of control.
Which perfectly leads to the next line. And this is where the song gets a little eerie for me. The lyric is, my heart did a flip,
Yeah,
the old one inside.
that's a great line.
That phrase, the old one, it really stuck out to me. Is that like a ghost story? Is the narrator haunted?
In a neurological sense, yes. But the ghost is you, or rather a past version of you. That old one inside refers to implicit memory.
Implicit memory. Okay, break that down for us.
So explicit memory is remembering what you had for breakfast. Implicit memory is your body remembering how to ride a bike, or in this specific case, how to react to danger.
Like muscle memory, but for fear.
Exactly. It's the part of you governed by past trauma or ingrained habits. It's the predictive coding in your brain that says, uh-oh, a bad thing happened. This means absolutely everything is going wrong.
So when the cup breaks, the old one, the implicit memory doesn't just see a mess that needs a paper towel.
No, not at all. To the old one, the broken cup is confirmation that the world is unsafe, or maybe that you are clumsy and worthless. This is what we call emotional dysregulation.
And the lyrics describe the physiology perfectly. The heart flips, the breath catches,
Your body is literally prepping for a fight.
and that explains the door slamming. I always just thought that was being dramatic or, having a bad temper.
It's actually functional in a very primitive way. It's a somatic discharge.
Somatic discharge.
Yeah, if you feel internal chaos, that massive spike in cortisol and adrenaline slamming a door is a way to physically expel that energy. It's a fight or flight reaction to a ceramic mug. You are trying to fight the chaos by hitting the door.
Wow. But here is where the song pivots. It doesn't stay in the tantrum. The next lyric says, but then I remembered the map in my head, the science of why I see everything red.
This is the turning point of the whole track. This introduces a concept we call psychoeducation.
Psychoeducation. I have to say, that sounds like a mandatory HR seminar I would definitely try to skip.
I know it sounds super dry, but it's incredibly powerful. It's the idea that understanding mechanically how your brain works is actually a tool for healing.
How so?
When the narrator says they remember the science of why they see red, they are engaging in metacognition. They are thinking about their thinking.
So it creates distance.
Exactly. Instead of thinking, I am an angry person or I am losing my mind, you realize, oh, I am experiencing a physiological anger response caused by a spike in adrenaline.
That seems like a crucial distinction to make.
Yeah.
It turns the emotion into an event that is happening to you, rather than something that defines who you are.
Precisely. You aren't angry, you are a person observing an anger response. It's the difference between being lost in a storm and watching the storm from a window inside your house. One is completely overwhelming and the other is manageable.
I really like that image. So we've got the trigger, the startle, and the metacognition. Now we move into the chorus, which is where the song essentially becomes a biology class with a massive beat drop.
Yes, this is where we meet the characters.
Right. We get introduced to the two main actors in our brain, the amygdala and the frontal lobe.
The neural tug of war. This is where the science gets really fun.
The lyric that totally cracked me up, and I think anyone from the American South will appreciate this, was, "Oh, my amygdala is trained to help. Bless its heart."
It is such a brilliant line.
Bless its heart. That is the most polite, passive-aggressive way to say you are completely incompetent, but you are trying your best.
It really is. But there is deep clinical wisdom in that humor. The amygdala is that tiny almond-shaped cluster in the temporal lobe. It's the ancient alarm system. It is strictly responsible for threat detection.
The smoke detector of the brain.
Yes, but it's a smoke detector that hasn't been calibrated since the Stone Age. It goes off when you see a tiger, sure, but it also goes off when you get a vague email from your boss or when you drop a coffee cup.
You can't tell the difference.
Right. The amygdala sees the shattered cup and thinks, threat, chaos, we are under attack.
So it's a protector.
It is a protector, but it's a protector that doesn't realize the war is over. It perceives the broken cup as a life or death failure. It floods the system with stress hormones to save you from a danger that isn't actually there.
So by saying bless its heart, you're offering it compassion instead of getting mad at yourself for freaking out.
Exactly. You're acknowledging that your anxiety isn't your enemy. It's just a misguided bodyguard. It's trying to save you. But then we meet the counterweight. The lyric continues, but the frontal lobe is awake and alive.
The adult in the room.
The prefrontal cortex, the seat of executive function, reason, logic, impulse control. The problem is, when we panic, we experience what Daniel Goleman calls an amygdala hijack.
An amygdala hijack. That sounds violent.
It is, chemically speaking. During a hijack, blood and oxygen are actually diverted away from the frontal lobe and sent to the muscles for fight or flight.
Wait, really?
Yes, you literally become dumber when you are panicked because your logic center goes offline.
Well, that explains so much about why I can never find the right thing to say in an argument until like 20 minutes later in the shower.
Yeah.
My frontal lobe was out to lunch.
It was literally deprioritized by your biology. So recovery, in the context of the song, is just keeping that frontal lobe awake. It's the practice of forcing it back online.
And Ti-Fi uses this really beautiful metaphor to explain the difference between the amygdala state and the frontal lobe state. The lyric is, reacting is lightning, but responding is light.
I love that line.
I want to dig into that. Reacting is lightning, responding is light. It sounds super poetic, but operationally, what is the actual difference?
Think about the physics of lightning. It's instantaneous. It follows the path of least resistance. It's incredibly destructive. And crucially, it is involuntary. You do not choose where lightning strikes.
Right?
That is the trauma response. That is the instinct.
Okay. And light.
Light is steady. It illuminates the whole room. It allows you to see the path forward. Responding is the light. It takes a fraction of a second longer than the lightning, but it gives you clarity. It's the difference between a reflex and a choice.
And that leads to the realization at the end of the chorus. The tiger isn't here, and the panic won't win.
That is the frontal lobe coming back online. It's looking around the kitchen, seeing the broken ceramic, and telling the amygdala, hey, attack the perimeter. There is no tiger. It's just coffee.
The immediate physical threat doesn't exist, even if the body feels like it does.
It's reality testing. And that is what de-escalates the chemical dump.
So we've survived the kitchen disaster. But verse 2 takes us into territory that I think is even harder for people to navigate, the interpersonal trigger.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, a cup is an inanimate object. People are significantly more complicated.
Yes, they are. And unfortunately, social threats are processed by the brain almost identically to physical threats. We are social animals. Exclusion meant death for our ancestors.
So the stakes feel incredibly high. The lyric sets the scene perfectly. Later you called and you canceled our plans. Oof.
A simple scenario. It happens all the time.
But the reaction in the song is intense. The old me would spiral and throw up my hands thinking you hate me, thinking I'm bad.
Here we go, the old me again. That implicit memory. What we are seeing here is a textbook cascade of cognitive distortions.
Cognitive distortions.
Mm.
That sounds like a pedal on a guitar board, which would honestly fit the genre perfectly, but I'm guessing it's a clinical term.
It is central to cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. It refers to irrational thought patterns that reinforce negative emotions. In those two lines, we see personalization and catastrophizing.
Unpack that for us.
So someone cancels plans. That is a single data point, the objective reality. Maybe they are sick, maybe they are busy at work, but the anxious brain, the distorted brain, takes that one point and spins a massive, scary narrative.
They canceled, therefore they hate me.
Exactly. That's mind reading. And then it goes to, if they hate me, I must be bad. That's internalizing.
It escalates so fast. You go from having a free Friday night to I am unlovable in about 3 seconds flat.
And that is the spiral. Once you believe the distortion, your body reacts as if it's true. You feel the deep shame of being unlovable, even though all that actually happened was a minor schedule change.
But the sweetest pause offers a technique to stop it. And I think this is my favorite image in the entire song. The lyric is, but I caught the thought like a fly in a jar.
I love this visual so much. I caught the thought like a fly in a jar.
It's so vivid, I can clearly see the glass.
This illustrates a psychological concept called cognitive diffusion. It's a foundational pillar of acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT.
Diffusion, like diffusing a bomb.
Similar vibe, but spelled with an E. D-E-F-U-S-I-O-N. It means unsticking yourself from the thought. Most of the time, we are fused with our thoughts. If I think I'm bad, I fundamentally believe I am bad. I am the jar.
Okay, that makes sense.
Diffusion is stepping back. Think about the metaphor in the song. If you catch a fly in a jar, you are holding the jar. You are looking at the fly.
Right, you are distinct from it.
Exactly. You are not the fly.
Whoa, okay. So the thought, they hate me, is just the fly buzzing around inside the glass.
Yes. It's a nuisance. It's noisy. It might even be ugly to look at. But if you can look at it through the glass, you realize it is separate from you. You are the observer, not the thought.
You don't have to open the jar and let it sting you.
Right. You can just watch it buzz until it runs out of air and settles down.
That is incredibly freeing. Because usually we try to fight the thought, right? And we argue with it.
And arguing with it just feeds it more energy. Diffusion is about just noticing it.
Yeah.
And the lyrics go on to say, I realized the past was pulling the strings, so I cut it right there.
That is the moment of liberation.
It really is. You realize that your reaction to the canceled plans isn't really about the plans at all. It's the ghosts of old wounds, as Ti-Fi puts it in the liner notes, trying to dictate your present reality. Cutting the strings is reclaiming your agency. It's definitively saying, I am not my past trauma.
So we've got the map, we've got the jar for our thoughts. Now we get to the bridge, and really the central thesis of the whole song, the actual sweetest pause.
This is the emotional and physiological heart of the track.
The lyric is, taking a breath is the best place to land. Now look, I breathe all day, I'm doing it right now. Why is this specific breath so important? Why is it the remote control?
Because in the context of trauma recovery and nervous system regulation, the breath is the only autonomic function that we can also consciously control.
Remind me, autonomic means what exactly?
Autonomic functions are things your body does automatically to keep you alive. Heartbeat, digestion, hormone regulation. You can't just tell your heart to stop beating.
Right.
You can't command your stomach to digest your lunch faster.
True. I've definitely tried that after a heavy meal. Does not work.
It definitely doesn't. But you can tell your lungs to slow down.
Yeah.
And here's the biological hack. The respiratory system is linked directly to the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve. I feel like I hear this buzzword everywhere lately.
It's the superhighway of the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the rest and digest mode. When you take a deep, slow exhale, you are physically stimulating the vagus nerve. You are sending a manual override signal up to your brain that says, we are safe.
So it's not just telling yourself to calm down in a conceptual way. It's a literal biological hack.
It is a biological safety signal. It forces the amygdala to stand down. It is the brake pedal for your entire nervous system.
And the lyrics make a very important distinction here, which I think prevents this from just being toxic positivity. Ti-Fi sings, it's not about hiding the way that I feel, it's just making sure that the danger is real.
I am so glad you highlighted that, Eric.
I think it's crucial because a lot of people think being zen or mindful means you just suppress everything and pretend you're completely fine when you're not.
Right, the whole good vibes only approach, that is not what this is. Recovery isn't suppression, it's validation versus verification.
Validation versus verification. Break that down for us.
You validate the feeling first. Okay, I feel scared. My heart is racing. That feeling is valid. But then you verify. Is there actually a lion in the room?
You don't ignore the fear. You just ask the fear for its credentials.
Exactly. Can I see your ID, please? Are you here for a real emergency, or are you just here because I dropped a coffee cup?
I'm going to need to see a warrant before you flood my system with cortisol.
Precisely. It's about being the judge of your internal state, not the victim of it.
And then the song builds to this massive finale. The music gets heavily distorted. It gets super triumphant. The breakdown mentions that the sound design here actually mimics the struggle. And the lyrics are, we can rewire the circuits. Watch me stop. Watch me go.
Which brings us to the grand concept of the entire track, neuroplasticity.
Which is the idea that the brain is plastic.
Malleable, changeable. For a really long time, science believed that once you reached adulthood, your brain was basically set. If you were a hothead, you were stuck that way forever. Your neural concrete had dried.
But we know now that's not true.
Not at all. We now know about Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together wire together.
Neurons that fire together wire together.
Every single time you react with anger, you strengthen the anger highway in your brain. It becomes a superhighway, fast and super easy to travel. But the reverse is also true. Every time you choose to breathe instead of slam the door, you are physically weakening that old neural pathway. You are letting the weeds grow over the old road.
And you're paving a brand new road.
Exactly. You are strengthening a new connection. That's why the lyric, "Watch me stop, watch me go," is so powerful, it signifies total agency.
Watch me stop, watch me go.
You have to stop, take the pause, so that when you finally go, you are moving with pure intention. You are driving the car, not just reacting to the bumps in the road.
And the music perfectly mirrors this. The breakdown notes mention that the bridge strips all the way back like taking a deep breath and then builds into this distorted, heavy finale.
It represents the sheer energy required to change. Rewiring your brain isn't a passive experience. It takes effort. It takes friction. That distorted sound is the sound of breaking old habits and forging new ones. It's supposed to sound a bit like a struggle because it is one.
It's honestly fascinating to think that a pop song could actually walk you through this entire curriculum. Trigger, physiological response, cognitive distortion, mindfulness tool, and finally, neuroplasticity.
It really is a complete therapeutic arc mapped out in 3.5 minutes.
So what does this all mean for us? You know, the listeners who might not be electronic rock stars, but definitely have shattered a cup or two in our time.
I think the summary is right there in the title, The Sweetest Pause. The main lesson here, and this actually connects to the philosophy of Viktor Frankl, is that freedom exists in that tiny space between the stimulus and the response.
That split second.
That split second. In the past, or in the old me, that space was completely non-existent. Trigger equals explosion. It was lightning. But the map, the breath, the jar, they are all tools to widen that gap, to stretch that split second into 2 seconds and then 3.
And in that pause, you get to choose.
You get to choose. And as Ti-Fi says, responding feels like freedom. When you aren't being constantly jerked around by your past or your amygdala, you are actually free.
That is a deeply powerful thought, that taking a breath isn't just about calming down. It's an act of liberty.
It is the ultimate act of self-reclamation. You are reclaiming your biology from your history.
Well, I don't know about you, but the next time I drop something in the kitchen, I'm going to try really hard to visualize that fly in the jar before I start yelling.
And remember to bless your amygdala's heart. It's trying its best.
I will. Bless your heart, brain. Now calm down.
Perfect.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with something to mull over. We talked a lot today about how our old selves are just neural pathways. We've traveled way too many times, highways we didn't really mean to build.
Right.
So here is the question for you to explore on your own. If you could stop traffic on that highway just once today, If you took one single breath before reacting to a text or a sudden noise or any stressor, what new circuit could you start building? What does the new you look like if you just give yourself a second to meet them?
That is the question.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.